The Divine Soul Sorcerer can get their magic for several reasons, either because they are the chosen one, or they're actually related to one of the gods themselves. I talked to Mike Merles about this new subclass in Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Yeah, so originally it was the favored soul, and then we changed it to the divine soul. And that was what we found, that the favored soul, the original concept, was a 3/5 character class. And that had a strong enough identity that when we said, hey, this is the favored soul, people had very specific expectations of what they wanted out of it. They wanted something that was essentially a cleric with the sorcerer spellcasting mechanic. And what we found was, when we tried sort of implementing that based on the feedback we saw from the playtest, it didn't really work because the clerics, the way we've changed core casting in 5th compared to 3/5, we had already kind of made the divine soul, I guess, sorry, the favored soul, that the cleric, you are preparing spells, but you're preparing spells at your list of available spells, and you have a lot of the flexibility that the favored soul had in 3/5 now baked into the cleric. So we didn't feel that alone was interesting enough to warrant essentially taking the cleric and just using more sorcerer-like spellcasting with it. So we decided to change the name. We felt like, okay, this is still an interesting concept. The sorcerer whose origin, the source of their magic, is a sort of divine influence. It seemed really iconic. It seemed pretty straightforward. But we wanted to change the name to make it, to distance it a bit from that original character class, while still being inspired by it in some ways. The biggest change you'll see now, if you look at the final version compared to the playtest version, beyond the name changes, you pick now what type of divine figure that is responsible for your magic. So originally it had a lot of healing. It had the Cure Wounds spell was baked into it. But now Cure Wounds is attached to if it was a good divine figure, and then there's Law, Chaos, and Evil as other options. So that gives you a little more flexibility in making your character feel more of a tie to whatever divine figure in the campaign you want to link your character to. So if the Warlock's like an agent of a celestial figure, the divine soul I see as like the prophesied one, like the person who's born under a blessed sign, someone who's gifted these divine abilities without having to necessarily earn them, and almost like an avatar. And I think it's at one point, I think that we're thinking of actually calling the subclass the avatar. The idea that it's like you are a shard of divine energy, that's been put inside of you. But that felt like it was going a little bit further afield, and then I think the using it of the mystic made a little bit more sense. So yeah, it's someone who is just, you could think of Greek mythology. Someone like, not necessarily Hercules is necessarily a good example because he's more of a warrior, but someone like that, the blessed of the gods, the chosen by the gods, someone who might be more of a prophet, who, when you think of a religion and you have a prophet, like there might be a conflict there, where this prophet might be someone who wasn't a cleric, maybe just someone who comes in from the wild, or someone who's born amongst the people, but then is displaying the ability to weave miracles, essentially use divine magic, and has insight from the gods, a heretic or someone like that, who's challenging the accepted order. And so for me, that's kind of when thinking about the design as we were working on it, from my point of view on it, that's what I kind of saw as like the iconic person. Like I could imagine playing one of these characters with like the folk hero background and saying, yeah, like I am the one, like, a very classic thing, like you have a good aligned church. It's kind of gotten away from its roots. It's not necessarily helping the poor anymore or the downtrodden. So you're the person rising up from the people. You've been chosen by Tyr himself and, given gifts and go forth, right? Like you're not going to really receive training from the clerics because they've kind of lost their way. So now I've chosen you, or there's a bloodline or something like that, and you're being called to, that's, I think, what you're being called to your divine abilities. Or you could have just someone who is like, yes, like from Greek myth, one of my parents was a deity, or something like that. And so I think it's a fun thing with sorcerers, is really I think of them as almost like wild cards in the D&D universe. Like they kind of exist outside of the order of magic because it is innate, and to them it's a natural ability. They haven't really had to focus on it and train it. It's been given to them. And so I think that would be a fun character to play, the sort of like iconoclast. Because, in D&D you have this idea that, if you're a cleric, the gods in theory can speak to you. They don't speak clearly, they maybe speak cryptically, and you have to use a spell. But, how do you square like two priests of Torm who may disagree when you could just cast a spell and ask Torm? So like I think that's where a fun thing where this character can come in as someone who is that disruptive force. And so I think it'd be really fun to play a good aligned one who's sort of seen as a heretic or an outcast by the sort of established good guy pantheon of gods.
There's also something very Muad'Dib versus the Bene Gesserit in Dune.
Yeah. Paul Atreides can be someone you might think of as an inspiration.
The Divine Soul Sorcerer appears in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. You can purchase that book on dndbeyond.com and also earn pre-order bonuses as well. I'm Todd Kenrick. Thank you for watching.